I want a key card! I hated flying on airplanes, so my company let me use my own car when I had to go out of town. They paid my mileage and it all sort of balanced things out, except I had to drive myself. My wife Karen, on the other hand, hated driving. We both turned 50 this year, and we were both still working. Karen sold insurance policies for large construction projects. They were quite complicated to write. I handled commercial loans for residential construction projects. This week I was in Charlotte and Karen was in Knoxville. I finished 2 days early. On the last day, I spent most of my time fantasizing about the Ocala National Wildlife Refuge. We visited the area years ago when the kids were young and I loved it there. Both of our daughters were now gone and had families of their own. Our empty nest was too big, too expensive, and required too much care. I have no idea why we both kept working. In fact, I hated my job. I'm not sure how Karen felt, but I wanted to discuss some alternatives with her. I entered the information for the Knoxville Ramada Inn into my navigator and hit the road. I needed to kill time somehow, and I couldn't think of a better way than to spend it with Karen. The trip gave me plenty of time to think and plan. There were many small cabins for sale in and around the preserve. We could rent in Ocala and take our time finding the perfect retirement home. We could move in and take early retirement without financial problems. The 5-hour drive to Knoxville would get me there just in time for our usual dinner time, so I decided to stop and grab a bite to eat on the way. One of the nice things about the neighborhood was the availability of Crystal Burgers. I bought a whole bag of the little sausages and ate them all the way to Knoxville. I didn't want to call her to let her know I was coming because I thought she'd be busy in some meeting. She usually turned off her cell phone during the day anyway. Unfortunately, I didn't bother to get her room number either. I never thought it would be necessary. I parked the car, grabbed my carry-on, and entered the lobby. Before I approached the counter, I noticed that there were 2 restaurants here. It was likely that she would be in one of them. The first was more like a diner, and she wasn't there. The next choice was fine dining, and I found Karen sitting with Robert Wilson, her company's marketing manager. "Karen! Robert! Surprise!" It was a simple greeting, but I was very surprised at the reaction I got from both my wife and her dinner companion. "John, what are you doing here?" I expected a warm welcome, but got quite the opposite. Robert Wilson seemed to fidget in his seat, and Karen was completely confused. What the hell was going on? "I finished early, so I thought I'd drop by here, spend some time with you, and we could drive home together." "It's unexpected, John. Karen had no way of finishing what she wanted to say. Finally, Wilson spoke. "John, we've already ordered. I've got a medium-rare ribeye coming up. Why don't you take that, and I'll leave you 2 alone to enjoy your meal. I'll grab a bite at the diner." "Robert, I've already eaten. Stay here and relax. I'm going to go and clean up and join you 2 for a drink later." "No, John. I insist. I have some work I have to finish before the meeting tomorrow. You stay and enjoy dinner with your wife." Wilson was very nervous, and Karen was as pale as a ghost. He started to get up before I put my hand on his shoulder. "Sit down, Robert. Karen, give me the room key. I'll be back in a few minutes." I held out my wife's hand for the room key card. She looked at Wilson and then back at me. "John, there's no hurry. Can you just sit down for a few minutes?" I took her clutch and dumped the contents on the table. A minute later, I was taking the elevator to the 6th floor. It was worse than I'd expected. The bed had been made recently. Wet towels and bathrobes hung next to the shower. Of course, both sets of luggage were in place. In the trash can by the bed were 2 used condoms. On the dressing table were his and her beauty products. I had no idea when it had started, but they had been traveling together for years. I didn't go back to the restaurant. 10 minutes later, I was on the I-75 freeway, heading for Chattanooga. I had no desire to return to Pennsylvania. I spent the next morning dealing with personal financial, insurance, and work issues. It's amazing what can be accomplished online. I wasn't able to do everything I wanted to do, but I got most of the work done. I got a lot of calls on my cell phone from Karen, which I deleted. I spent the day in Chattanooga. A week later, I was comfortably settled into my new abode. It wasn't very elegant, but it was actually on the edge of the Ocala National Wildlife Refuge. I never imagined living in a spacious trailer with no air conditioning. It was divine. The end!